Okay, hold on one second. I got, of course, every time, I got a failed to post alert on my encoder. Remember I told, I'm going to give some of you some time to join in. Good morning, locals. Remember I said every time I run these encoders, something happens? Well, it seems as though it has just happened again. I wish I could put copyrighted music on here so I could just keep things going and flowing while the rest of you start to come in. I guess what I should do is, since we're waiting, I'm gonna post live in. So we have a Discord with a bunch of us that, you know, kind of trade ideas and information and all that sort of stuff, and focus on all the stuff that we focus on this live stream. And and let me just send this here. There seems to there's a bunch of people here who I'm trying to send the links to, because again, the encoder that I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, and this is that's why, you know, with complexity comes the potential for failure, for any sort of, you know, a line of code here, a line of code there, something, and it, you know, the butterfly effect, it all compiles, and as we know from chaos theory, and that's exactly what happens to me every time, it seems. But, you know, it is what it is, and some of you starting to come in here slowly. Good morning, everybody, and let me just shut that down. I'm going to start the audio, and I guess the first thing I want to say is welcome to what I hope is the best Wednesday morning of your life. It's time for the Freedom Coffee live stream. This is where we celebrate the freedoms that we have, and we all together share ideas on how to expand those freedoms in the future. And how do we do that? We do that like all good things begin with a cup of Freedom Coffee. You know, it's reversed in locals. I can't change that. But anyways, everything starts with an idea, and the best ideas come when we are calm. So step number 2 is to focus on our state of positivity, and we do that with our coffee and all us coming together and sharing our ideas. Ryan, what's up, brother? Ryan, what up, peeps? I'm officially a civilian. Well, congratulations, I guess. You'll have to send me a message in Twitter. I want to know what happened and everything, what kind of went on behind the scenes. So congratulations to you, brother. Good morning, Jesse. We are here. Everybody's here. I know. We're starting to come in. I'm starting to get a hold of this, and I think I might have found out the scheduling issue that I had. So I'm going to try to work on that the next stream. Might even do a couple of tests later on today. By the way, later on today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if you're on Twitter, there's a Twitter space that I host with Brendan Gentili, who is from the United States, a former hockey player who is in the Bitcoin/political space sort of thing. And we run this every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, so join on Twitter. I think the link is already within my feed, and hop up on stage and come share ideas. We only do it for an hour before Talks of Happy Hour. And sometimes you go a little bit over, but if you want to talk about politics, and I think today there's going to be quite a few things to talk about, especially for many of them who are Americans, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. First thing is, we got to slow down. There's so much noise that's been going on this week, and I think this is a good opportunity to just kind of stop for a little bit, sit back, look at how beautiful it is outside, at least where I am today. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's the summer. The world hasn't collapsed, despite the fact that legacy media and alternative media some alternative media want to convince us that the world has collapsed. But it's absolutely beautiful out, and Trudeau does his best Mussolini impression. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The guy's done. His not only his career is over, but he's going to sink the entire Liberal Party with him. That party will no longer exist if they continue. No electronics in the bird rooms. Sorry. Okay, well, why is that, Jesse? I'm just curious. What's the rationale behind that? But how does how does Rocky watch the live streams if there's no electronics in the bird rooms? Anyways, let's talk about a couple of things. First, hopefully we can dispel some fears. Let's start with a little bit of artificial intelligence, AI, the big scary thing that I used to be quite concerned about AI as well, until AI came on the scene and we all learned how it worked, and we realized, I think a lot of us realized, it's only as smart as, well, not quite the dumb and human, but it's only as smart as us, because AI is the current AI, how it functions, these language models. It basically just mines data and does a predictive word algorithm, and it predicts what to say based on what human beings historically said. So there's no actual intelligence. That's why it's artificial intelligence. And it's just a mirror of ourselves. And I said a few times that I think the concern is really blown out of proportion. That's not to say AGI might be something different. We'll talk about that in a second. But what it does have the potential to disrupt, I think, in a negative way, is an idea I remember from James Burke in the late 70s, early 80s, I think, one of his documentaries, when he was talking, I think it was The Day the Universe Changed? One of those documentary series. And he talked about during the Middle Ages, where when the church essentially was running society, it was a combination of church and feudalism that was running Western Europe at the time. And it was this concept and this idea that everything old was new, that there was very little, and there's a lot of dispute on this theory, by the way, but from his perspective, that there wasn't much innovation during that period of time, because that part of the world was stuck in a mode of just survival, just basic survival. It's part of the reason we refer to it as the Dark Ages. And the idea is that what's AI, in this language model, going to do to literature and authors and audiobooks, where it kind of originally started from. Because at the end of the day, people who write books like this one, Honking For Freedom, honkingforfreedom.com, by the way, please share it with as many people as possible. Like, share, subscribe. And including Substack. The idea is that what is this language model going to do if it gets powerful enough that you can just kind of log on to it and say, hey AI, or hey ChatGPT, do me a favor, just summarize this book. I don't have time to read it. Can you just summarize it in under 3 minutes? Or AI, can you read me this book? Whatever book it is, I don't know, Honking For Freedom or something else, just start reading me the book. Well, what's that going to do? What kind of disruption will that bring to the audiobook and literature industry? And if that's the case, if there's no more incentive, good morning, Lisa, if there's no more incentive to produce books, who's going to write books anymore? And will it just be, now obviously there will always be people, but literature and books might go the way of everything else that's being politicized, where it becomes overly preachy, and just the woke supremacists and other religious extremists might want to produce literature because they're driven by their addiction, right? That's what fuels them. They get the dopamine by promulgating their addiction. So I don't know, just an interesting conversation I think we should have. Like, what are the protections going to be? Personally, I don't fear AI. I use it regularly now. I think it's amazing. It's so helpful in terms of productivity once you figure out. It doesn't take over everything. It's just like a small little category of things that it helps with. and very limited in scope. And that's part of the reason, from my perspective, the fear of AI is the equivalent to the fear of Y2K. Remember that? But I don't know. That's AI. AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, that's like the movie 2001 Space Odyssey. That might be something different, but I think we're 100 years away from that, maybe not, maybe more. I don't know. I'm looking forward to, Ryan says, I'm looking forward to AI dating apps that can match you with people based on stuff like your browser history, your Netflix history, and your credit score, etc. Yeah, but Ryan, you know what the problem with that is? For me, who wants to date somebody who's exactly like you? Like, I've always believed you don't want to date somebody who has all the same things in common that you do. You want to date somebody who maybe has a similar world philosophy. I think that is important, but who has a whole bunch of hobbies on their own that are separate from yours, and has a bunch of behavioral traits that that complement you, right? You want people who, if you're very outgoing, then maybe you want somebody who's a little bit more reserved, who kind of you balance each other's out. If you're somebody who's not very good with budgeting, maybe you want to date somebody who's, I don't know, an accountant. So the two of you together complement one another. Just my perspective. But anyways, we had a little space we went down that direction on dating maybe last week. So let's not do the same thing again. But Jesse, well, AI will increase laziness and it's already prominent. I don't know, Jesse. It's increased my productivity. It's helped me significantly, right? So it hasn't, I mean, if you're lazy, you're lazy. I'm not. I'm always doing something. So it just becomes another tool of that'll make me more productive. Hold on one second. Itchy nose. It's itchy, it's just itchy. So, I don't know. And Jesse says, who wants to date at all? I just want to hang out with my friends sometimes. Yeah, listen, you do what's right for you, right? Everyone's different and has different needs. And I think that's also, we're seeing a lot of that going on online. There's a little preachiness and telling people how they should be living their lives. And I get that. I understand where it comes from, but I think it might be going a little too far right now. We see, wow, I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you see it on all your YouTube feeds of what is the best way, what you should be doing, what society wants you to do. I don't know. I'm still on the freedom side, that you do what is best for your mental health. And I think if you do that, you're great. Anything can help me do all the blood, nothing I want to do, plus in my book. It gets cut off by the icon. I gotta wait till the thing streams right, and I can't see what you're writing. There's like a little icon in the chat that prevents me from actually seeing your comment, which is quite annoying and inconvenient. But anyways, all right. Anyways, okay. So I wanted to talk about this. All this week, I've had a few people. Avril, good morning. Good to see you. All this week, I've had a number of people reaching out to me, asking me to essentially to engage with at least one, maybe two different online trolls. And I laughed. I'm like, oh my God. And people with good intentions and supportive and all that sort of stuff. And, well, why don't you engage with this person? I'm not going to say who this trash is, but why don't you engage with them? Why don't you, debate? And it's just kind of, it's frustrating for a number of reasons, right? Because I did get so many requests to, why don't you engage and go in a space and talk to this person? And like, the first thing is, personally, I don't lower myself to that level. I really don't. Yeah, I can be a little feisty, but I don't do that, right? And the argument I keep hearing from people is about this particular troll, an individual who spent, I don't know, the better part of a year or more, since during the Freedom Convoy, going out of their way to smear myself and at that time other people involved in the Freedom Convoy. And there's a reason I'm bringing that up. This is political. This is important. Because the argument that's presented to me is like, well, because I try to explain that this guy's just another Fed. and by Fed, remember, we're using the common, slang term. Doesn't mean they work for a 3-letter agency. It means they're an informant for the political class. That the political class pays this person, not necessarily with money, but pays this person and people like them to go out and smear myself and others. And this has been going on since, during the Freedom Convoy incidents. This is nothing new, right? This is one of the most common tactics that is used. So, and one of the arguments I got in, pushed back at me saying, well, what do you mean? What do you mean he's a Fed/informant? What do you mean? He was there in Ottawa. And I just yes, of course he was. He was there because he is an informant, and he's there to persuade you as he smears myself and others. That's the whole point. That's why he had to be there. This particular person ran spaces all day and night, for hours at a time. Why do you think he did that? He did that because he's an informant, and he's there to persuade you against the people who were doing their best to keep the Freedom Convoy together. You see this phenomenon a lot. Hurt Locker, Tom, and all these other fucking losers. Same thing. They'll do the whole, I support the Freedom Convoy. I supported it. And then in the other side of their mouth, start criticizing, ridiculing, and smearing the people who helped make the Freedom Convoy. It's because they're not on your side. They're not on the side of the freedom. It's what my friends in the U.S. who are watching all this stuff online laughing, saying, are Canadians that naive? Like they've never seen how political operatives work, how they infiltrate? Like this is textbook what they do. And it's like, we do tend to be a little bit naive. But that's the grift. That's the grift, is to send in people who want to be close to politicians, want to be, perceived as being influential, and they get involved in movements. They try to attach themselves to the movement to persuade all of you against the people who are putting it together, to then take a dump on everybody who's involved. It is the basic principle of divide and conquer. It's as old as civilization itself. Well, maybe almost as old, not quite as old, right? And that's why they were during the convoy, defaming myself and Tamara and many others. Remember, they were going on their stream saying, they're stealing the money, they're taking the money, they have all the Bitcoin, they have this and that. All of this is a matter of public record. It's in court documents that everything is in escrow. This is not a surprise, but they continue to promulgate it because it's not about truth. It's about smearing people like myself and others and manipulating you. And they sometimes take the most autistic idiots that they can, who are good at one or two persuasion tactics, and they use that for divide and conquer. In my case, the individual I'm talking about, yes, Jesse, that's correct. In my particular case, I was in a space once or twice with one of the individuals I'm talking about towards the end of the convoy, and maybe one after, I don't remember. But there were twice. And it's gish gallop after gish gallop. One after another. And you'll see this all the time from the political hacks. They'll use this strategy frequently. Now, what is it? Make a whole long list of assertions, so 20 different assertions, frame it as though it's just one question, and then if you can't refute that one question or 20 assertions that require so much context to explain, then you're the liar. That's what they try to do. So I dealt with it twice, and as soon as I tried to respond and say, okay, stop, one thing at a time. Well, just let me finish my question. No, that's not a question. That's a list of accusations, and you want a list of accusations responded and refuted to in one sentence. That's not possible. That's why it's a prohibited tactic in formalized debates. You're not allowed to do that, right? But most people don't understand that. And this is the type of thing, this is the strategy that this trash uses, right? That's just the way it is. And it's designed to play on your emotions. It's designed to get you into a frame where you're very, very emotional. They'll console you. We hear you. Yeah, everything's falling apart. I love you. Yeah, freedom, blah, blah, blah. But these people, assertion, 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 and do it through repetition, right? And this is not unique to one side of the political spectrum. Like, we like to criticize Climate Barbie with her whole statement of, if you say your talking point enough times, eventually people will believe it. The other side of the aisle does the exact same thing. They all do that, all of them. This is one of the reasons so many of us are untrusting of politicians, no matter their stripe, because they all do this, right? Take me in, blah, 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 Avril, okay. Show me, be kind. You don't have to like someone, but you should always be kind. Please understand that. Yeah, I mean, look, I think, Jesse, the idea is you try to start from a point of positivity and respect. And, sometimes it's easy to dismiss people. Sometimes you have to strategically respond, and sometimes you need a sledgehammer. There's a whole toolbox, right? And I remember a manager I used to work with many years ago who taught me a lot about management. He once said to me, if you always cut with the knife, eventually it gets dull. But once in a while, you need to sharpen it, right? And it's the same for this. So, but when people don't start from the position of any sort of respect, and it's just assertion, 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 playing on your emotions, trying to build the mob against individuals or a group of people who clearly were just out there trying to do our best. We did everything we could, even in the face of all the people that were sabotaging us or trying to capture members of our group to sabotage us. We did our best, right? And it's so easy for people like that to play Monday morning quarterback and to say, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. Like, you know what? You didn't wake up to the list of 100 fires that we had to put out every day because they have no concept of what was going on, right? They just sat by the sidelines and said to people, oh, yeah, we're here, but they were just political ops, right? I was in those spaces, BJ, and this person during the convoy, it was brutal. Yeah, because it was brutal in what? It was just assertion after assertion after assertion, lie after lie after lie about myself and other people. And the tactic is called politically, and in marketing, it's called narrative poisoning, is what they're trying to do. That's why there's so many people that are really confused. You see people starting to come out of the narrative poisoning right now as they continually are pumped for money. And it gets to the point where people start to realize, it's that saying I love from Plinkett, by the way, Red Letter Media, shout out. Your eyes don't see it, but your brain does. And that's what people are starting to realize, that, wait, a year and a half of pumping people for money, raising $5 million for legal fees for just a couple of people, for a board and a couple of people, while everybody else was sold out and abandoned. Some people start to ask questions. It's a small percentage, it's usually around 15% of people, that stay moderately skeptical and are waiting to hear, wait, there's something more to the story. And then that helps with the momentum. And we're at that point right now where people have been pumped enough and they're not seeing anything from it other than more and more, and there's something wrong. And there's a second reason you do that politically. It's because all of us have a limited number of funds that we can donate to causes that we care about, right? So when you get a call or an email or whatever, if you're the political establishment, you want to ensure anybody who is contacted for a donation or to help with a cause is going to respond with, I'd love to help, but I've already donated to X cause. That's why they do it. It's not that they need money. They need to block others who have been abandoned and have no representation and need to fundraise. They need to exhaust all the potential donations to those people so they can coalesce it for themselves. It's a control play within the political establishment. There's going to be more on this sometime soon because something big just happened this week behind the scenes, and I'll inform you all more of that soon related to all of this stuff. But that's part of the tactic. So this is the continual grift from Political Convoy that's going on, and I'm sure you've seen some of the back and forth on Twitter as Chad posted a couple of interesting facts this week. I did the same as well. And I know those of you in the chat here are waking up to, hold on, there's something wrong. And that's why I said a while, how long ago was it now? 9 months ago I started the stream, 10 months ago, 6 months ago, 7, something like that. That's what I started with, was the Freedom Convoy sabotaged, right? Because now you're starting to see that, although you might have thought it was crazy when I brought it up, hold on, some pieces are starting to fit together. And I posted that tweet from Chris Barber, the team, him, Tamara, and that shit rat Keith Wilson. I'm going to be posting an amazing video of him in Twitter soon that I'm sure none of you have seen, or few of you have seen. But yeah, that's the team. Yeah, that's the team. So the thousands of truckers that were there, all of you that are on the ground, people like myself doing the media strategy and all the interviews, and by the way, making some decisions while some of them just ran away for days at a time. But that's the team. It's so good. And they think it's going to work in their favor. You know, it's going to blow up gloriously, unfortunately for them. And I don't know what they're going to do politically, because I would hate to be them when people find out what's going on. Someone needs to post all the spaces in Discord. I never know when there is. Oh, you know what? That's a good idea, Jesse. Maybe we should do. Maybe we should create a room just for a channel just for spaces. So anytime a spaces is going up, we can post the link in there. And also, I don't know if today, I was thinking about experimenting with Nostr, which is a Twitter competitor that's decentralized, to maybe just simultaneously at the same time put it on Nostr and put it on Twitter Spaces, because Twitter Spaces is for mobile, for your cell phone. Nostr, you can actually do the exact same functionality, I believe, on a desktop or a laptop. Lisa, he was arrogant, loud, and wouldn't let anyone talk. He's having his temper tantrum, stomping his feet, saying, "Listen to me, I'm awesome." Yeah, listen, this is what happens when there's certain people that latch on to politics. There's a group of them that are mentally unstable. Now, there's no shortage of drug addicts in politics, alcoholics, and people who have very serious mental problems. That's who's running the country, by the way, just so you know. So it's not, and the reason the political class often looks to those people, just like all cults, is because people like that are lost, so they can give them a little bit of purpose, and when they do that, then they can control them, right? Like I mentioned in one of the last things, it's always, we got to control the messaging, He's now a PPC mouthpiece, yeah, but that party's also, unfortunately, sorry for everybody, that is a co-opted party that is more political establishment than anything else. It's controlled political establishment. That's about right here, blah, blah, blah. Come to think of it, if he showed up the same time Max did. Yes, he did. So there was, I remember we were going on the stage, was it the second? I think it was the first weekend or second weekend, I can't remember. And Maxime Bernier and Derek Sloan were trying to basically push themselves on the stage. Pastor Hildebrand finished his speech, and then myself, Tamara, spoke. And they were Maxime Bernier and Derek Sloan, who clearly, I mean, they're also paid political ops. Sorry, everybody. That's just how it works. Canada's run by a group of cartels. And so they were trying to push themselves onto stage. And I said to Tamara, I said, get them out of here, please. This is not, we agreed from the very beginning, this is not a political event. This is not for political parties, which is very concerning to hear her now say we were all there for political reasons. No, that's not what we agreed to on the phone, right? And she knows that. but they put her in difficult positions, I guess. I don't know. So yes, they were there all around. They all came. It's like the bus of losers from hell showed up in Ottawa around the same time that the plane from hell of losers showed up in Ottawa, with the exception of Chad. Chad was on that plane, so I think there's a couple of good people on that. I'm not sure. I might be wrong, but Chad was there. And then you had boots on the ground more than Tamara did, and you were broken. I was accessible to everybody every day, and I had two people going to there were quick morning meetings at the about security at the Swiss Hotel, and they would come because I couldn't go there because it would take me an hour and a half to get there. If I could, so they would come back and tell me everything that was going on, because we tried to do calls, but because it's in the basement, the cell phone signal, I mentioned that in the POEC testimony, because the cell phone signal was poor, it never really worked. We tried a couple of times, but I didn't really, you know what, like, I made some suggestions early on to secure the money, to secure legal representation before the plane from hell, and a whole bunch of other things, and I was, shot down by, Tamara said, we already have it taken care of. And I'm like, you don't have it taken care of. This needs to be done now. And no, we'll be fine. Okay, fine. And at that point, I decided, the only thing I can ensure that will stay stable and secure is the messaging, which is what John Carpe every day, that fucking loser is trying to send me an email. You need to listen to this is our PR person. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are, but get the fuck out. And you weren't invited. And now he's grifting around Peterson and everybody else, milking all of you for money. But anyways, we'll talk more about that over time. She got caught if she had to go somewhere or when she waited to be arrested. That's basically it. Yeah, that video of her asking to be arrested is really weird. I'd love to have an explanation for that, but although I'm not sure I would trust the explanation. So, the best way, like, how do you... It was really interesting. Around that time, I remember when I saw the crying video. Remember she went out crying? And I remember thinking, what the fuck's she doing? I just spoke to her an hour and a half ago. Everything was fine. What is she doing? And that's the one where she was in the hotel room and, Trudeau's got kids and whatever. Okay, I get the message. I understand that. And then, she goes out and she gets arrested. I didn't know about the video of her and one other person as well. Apparently were trying to get arrested. Like, I didn't know that was happening. Because, I don't know, we're just miscommunication, so many things going on, whatever it was. And somebody told me the next morning, no, it was intentional, it was a setup. I'm like, come on. Even I was like, it's not a setup. Something's going on. But the one thing I did know from political activism is the person who gets arrested on TV gets the glory and gets the bags, meaning the money, right? That's first rule of political activism. It was, and right around that time, the few days leading up to it, it was so funny to hear them blatant, just all-out bullshit during the POEC and make a mockery of that whole proceeding. One of the lawyers like, is it true that nobody was talking, you weren't around? I'm like, what are you talking about? There's the video of me on stage with them on February 13th. I was talking to them every day, just before the crying video. Tamara was in my hotel room. But what was interesting is leading up to that, a few days before, and I guess the Big Con Canada Inc., which is now Political Convoy, who are infiltrating us, they must have realized for the 3 days leading up to that, all the media inquiries were going directly to me. Because they would go to Tamara, and Tamara would be like, hey, so we got an email. If she would get one, she would send it to me. And then after a while, even legacy media and alternative media just skipped the step and just went directly to me, and everything would work out fine. And I guess because Political Convoy knew I'm not part of their political grift, I'm not there to prop them up, they had to, I guess, figure out a way to take the momentum away. like, that's the only thing I can think of, like, logically, thinking about how these sort of political ops work. That's the only thing I could think of was, go out and try to and get arrested or something, and then it'll reassert you as the single person behind the convoy or something. I don't know. I'm just speculating right now. Who knows? Who knows what went on? But anyways. All right. Trudeau Mussolini. Good morning, Cheryl. It's good to see you. I hope you're well. And, we were talking about your loss in the past couple of weeks. And somebody sent me, I don't know if I should say it publicly, but somebody sent me a message last night over Twitter of 2 new additions to their family, 2 cats, and one of them is named Daisy. And I thought, I wonder if it's somebody who knows Cheryl or has been watching. So you never know. Oh, look, you're all hugging each other. You're going to make me cry. You're awesome. Avril, I saw that crying vid. Yeah, it was weird, right? Like, I remember thinking, like, you were just in my hotel room. What the hell? She went from the hotel room to, I think either the Ark or the Swiss Hotel, one of the others, had a quick meeting with some people, said she was going to go hang out with her husband. She worded it a little bit more crassly, apparently. And then shot a video. Okay. And it's kind of like, hey, remember we discussed throughout this entire thing, before anybody does that, let the comms team know, because it wasn't just me, there was a team of us. Let me know so we could message around it, but we kept getting blindsided. Like, who knew what was going to hand out? So I had to not only deal with all the other problems, I had to deal with, that coming out of nowhere. Okay, how do I deal with this? Really honed in my managing blowback skills. But anyways, so Trudeau Mussolini. You've all seen, there's a little video that came out of him threatening climate lockdowns. Can you tell the guy is completely lost control? Somebody reached out to me who was a former bigwig in the Liberal Party. Well, there are a couple of them. There's like 5 of them now. But one of them specifically said to me that that the PMO, the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau, whatever, it's only 20 people now. Like, that's it. There's a whole bunch of Liberal Party members, which is much smaller than it used to be. They're just sitting and waiting because they don't know what the hell to do, right? They think conservatives are evil, everybody's evil because they're in a cult. But their cult leader has lost their mind, and they're just sitting there, tapping their boots thinking, okay, when's this going to end? And you can see they're already gearing up to drive those knives in his back. Good morning, Sonia. You're never late. Thank you for joining. You're awesome. So he... I love this. He threatens... he's not out-and-out threatening. He's not using the language of threatening lockdown. So I think I'm going to talk about this on Political Bitcoin, by the way. Small point. That some people say that legalese is a language unto itself. So you have English, but you also have legalese. That's why when people go to court, and Jesse, I know you just went through that, they speak in, they use a mix of English and legal Latin terms, and those things together, because it has to be so precise, that gives you legalese. This is why we always need lawyers as much as possible. But I argue there's something else. There's also what I call speaking politics. And people in politics speak a different language. They are people who are in PR communications in politics, the good ones. They do it almost as an art form, and they'll put together messages that say as much as possible without saying it directly, which is kind of the problem. That's why people sometimes, they'll think something was inferred that wasn't, and then there's other times where something is being inferred, but people don't see it, right? It's because they're speaking a different language. So the political equivalent of legalese. So, and Trudeau was using that. He didn't say openly, we're going to lock you down. What does he say? we're going to use so many, what do you say, the techniques, or we learned so much from COVID and how to address the climate, whatever scary issue the fearmonger is doing, whatever the whole list of reasons you need to be scared, right? And we learned so much from COVID and what we can do, solutions we have, or whatever. So that's the political equivalent of legalese telling you exactly what he's thinking, and it gives them plausible deniability, because if they're ever caught by their own friends in the media, they can say, well, I never said that, right? It's the opposite of when they take a video and they remove the beginning and the end to strip the context. It's the same sort of thing, right? Same phenomenon. But my question is, how does someone lock down when they can't afford their home? Right? Where do they go? And why can't they afford their home? Oh, yes, that's right. Mass migration, right? Economics is the allocation of scarce resources among competing wants. So if we have a limited supply of houses and you bring in millions of people, guess what happens? The prices of housing, because of supply and demand, goes through the roof and compound the fact that your currency is collapsing. That's why property values are perceived as being so high, right? And if you factor in the currency, property values aren't very high. Your currency's been collapsing all this time. So, remember, and the thing that I find frustrating about it, so I watch this thing and I see all these conservatives criticizing Trudeau, blah, 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 and, he's authoritarian, he's extreme, and whatever. I want to take you back on a little journey. I want you to think back to February 2022. There was some event going on. It was a bunch of truckers and a bunch of us in Ottawa, and having a little protest that was ultimately sabotaged. And I think we've all agreed. I think everybody understands that now at this point. It was sabotaged, right? And I don't know if you remember, but during the Freedom Convoy, our goal was to end mandates and end the RFK app. That was exclusively what we were there for. Nothing more, nothing less. That's it, right? There were many grievances that were introduced there, and that's what allowed us all to come together. But we focused and targeted on things that were obtainable. I remember having this conversation with Tamara. I'm like, you can throw all these things all against the wall, but you need to have something that's obtainable, right? Because if it's obtainable, then we have a chance of reaching people in the government, especially when it's a policy that's only temporary, right? If it's a permanent policy, it's impossible. Well, it's a lot more difficult. It's got to be legislated. And I said to her, stop with all the other stuff. It has to be mandates and RFK. Let's just focus on that. And freedom, obviously, right? The freedom message and bringing everybody together in a positive way around those two things. I said, stop with all the other stuff. That was part of the people who were sabotaging us because they want to make us look bad. So they wanted to interject all these proxy organizations that were doing, the vax and blah, blah, blah. Sorry, guys, they're playing you too. So they wanted to introduce that just to make us look bad and unpalatable to media. That's what they were trying to do. And I said, no, we're mandates and RFK. We all kind of, I think we all agree. But who knows, right? People's minds seem to be changing all the time as they rewrite history. So, but do you remember during that time when the Conservative Party was perfectly teed up to challenge Trudeau and possibly put an end to his political career? Do you remember that? I think I mentioned in many interviews that there were a group of liberals that were getting set to form a coalition within the Liberal Party to put forward a non-confidence vote to get rid of Trudeau, because even they were getting sick of him and getting sick of this extremist journey that Jerry Butts and Trudeau have taken them down. They were tired of it. And many of them saw that their political opponents were gaining in popularity in their ridings. They're like, okay, well, they're not on board for this. So it was perfectly teed up. And what did the Conservatives have to do? Something very, very simple. And remember, when they say hashtag leadership, all they had to do was come out after the EMA and contact police directly and say, this is a political matter. Stop, go back, put pressure, political pressure on the lower levels of government, on policing, on the city, the city government, the council of idiots, whatever. All they had to do is, we are the conservative opposition caucus. Stop here. You're not arresting us. This needs a political solution. We're going, as Chief Slowly said on February 3rd, we're going to solve this inside Parliament. Everybody go back to where you were before. That's all they had to do. That's all the conservatives had to do. So fucking simple, I could do it with my brain closed. But they're such cowards. Such cowards. Like, and I said this, like, I had some of them calling me and contacting me. And I told them, just do that. No. Well, we're going to evaluate. Yeah, we're going to look and we're going to evaluate. We're going to evaluate. It means they're going to do nothing. And that's exactly what they did. Right? But all they had to do is step outside and show some political strength. Right? The only thing we saw a glimmer was Pierre Poilievre when he recited that scripted statement that was sent to me a couple of days before. Diverge Media talks about that in their article. But whatever, it was something. And that's all. And you know why? Because the conservatives are a bunch of fuck-ups. Really, they fucked it all up. And they fuck up things all the time. They're so incompetent. It's so frustrating. It really is. If any of them had a spine, I don't mean the fake spine of the posturing and the branding with the music and the pictures. And that's all bullshit. Forget what they say. Look at their behavior. What was their behavior during the convoy, right? All they had to do was come out and stand in solidarity. By the way, didn't see Keith Wilson or Tom Marazzo or all those other fucking grifters going out and standing in solidarity in front of the cops. If I could have, but unfortunately in a wheelchair, I would have done that. But none of them did they? None of them. Just so frustrating, right? Yet they're the team. They're the team. Anyways, one of the senators spoke to War Campaign and condemned him. Condemned who? I didn't understand that, Jesse. I wish I could put these comments on the screen, but with this this encoder, I can't do that, so I'm not sure. Whatever. Jesse, Jack Mead is keeping him in, yes, because Jack Mead was a provincial MP, but there's no more pensions for provincial MPs in Ontario. Mike Harris got rid of that, and because of that, Jack Mead, Jack Mead is basically a wannabe welfare recipient, is holding on to propping Trudeau up so he can get his pension. Isn't that an embarrassment to the Sikh community? If you're a Sikh, if you have such a loser like that as leader of the party, like, that can't be a safe place for him, right? I can imagine. I remember those videos of him, Jack Mead Sr., running down the street and Sellout Singh, yo brother, come on, hang out. Why is Julie's a great question? Why is the incompetence able to thrive so much? Makes me sick. I'll tell you why, because people are quiet, because the majority are silent, right? That's the problem. But there's another problem, is sometimes the people who speak up say things that are really not digestible to average people, which is something that the political class leverages to their benefit. That's what Randy Hillier's job is. That's why he would go to like those. Remember the Adams Barbecue was protesting Doug Ford, and all of a sudden out of nowhere Randy Hillier comes and shows up. He kept doing all these businesses that would get tickets. He would go up and then he'd say something stupid about Hitler or whatever, and then your average 2+2 normie family, all they see is the fake news reporting on some idiot saying Hitler, and they're like, okay, I'm not supporting this. That's what Randy Hillier's job is. That's what he gets paid for. So, Let's move on to the last thing that is interesting today. I think we're going to talk a lot about this on Political Bitcoin Hour today, in addition to RFK and Bitcoin, which I haven't even gotten to. Well, yeah, let me get on to that last night. So I was I was talking to some people in a Bitcoin space, a beginner space, for a little bit yesterday, and it was announced that RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for those of you who don't know. Let me see if I can find the message here. I got 12 minutes left. He posted, he said in an interview that let me just get it here. I was on Bitcoin Magazine and The Street. That Robert F. Kennedy made an announcement during an interview yesterday. Now, I want to preface this by, I've been telling you all about Bitcoin since the convoy. It's the only money that the government couldn't block. It's hard money. It has a supply cap. No government controls it. No individual controls it. It's decentralized all over the world, right? And if you're a country and you're trying to decide on which currency to use, and yours, let's say it's slipping in some way, shape, or form, you're not going to go to another competing currency. You're going to a currency that no one controls. It's better no one controls it than your adversary controls it, right? So RFK announces, this is the headline in Bitcoin Magazine, and this is on The Street Crypto. RFK Jr. announces bold plan to back dollar with Bitcoin, end Bitcoin taxes. Speaking at a Heal and Divide PAC event, Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy outlined specific Bitcoin-focused policies that he would enact as president, including gradually backing the U.S. dollar with Bitcoin and making Bitcoin profits exempt from capital gains taxes. Now, this is when all of us, because we're primed and trained to be negative, or people who are going to say, well, he's never going to get elected. And it's the fallacy. I don't know what fallacy is. I know it's one of them. It's always to dismiss whatever is new. It's a reaction that we all have. It's a survival instinct. But the problem, it's not about him getting elected. It's about him introducing this idea into politics, to make it a talking point, to make it, as I said in that Substack I wrote on his speech in Miami, he's moved the Overton window of what is politically acceptable speech amongst the political class. He's shifted it way over into the Bitcoin and freedom paradox. That's a significant point. So now people are going to start asking Trump about Bitcoin. Now Trump needs to figure out how we're going to position on. He's going to wait as long as possible, but he's going to have to be able to message around it as they realize this is an emerging voting bloc, right? Which is what I'm trying to help build, along with other people. So this is hugely significant. Whether he wins, gets the nomination or not, that's irrelevant. It's the point that this decentralized free money that no government controls, that can't be debased, that your purchase power can't be stolen. He's proposing it as a replacement from the gold standard to go to Bitcoin. Now there's also counter arguments to that as well. We'll talk about that another time. But this is a massive step. I've been telling people for years, buy Bitcoin, and they always tell me the same thing. At $2,000, oh, it's too much. I'm going to wait for it to go down. At $5,000, oh, it's going to go down. $6,000, going to go down. $10,000 down. $12,000, going to go down. $50,000. It went down because it's mid-cycle. But let's see after the next halvening, right? I keep telling people, stack sats. Just get a little bit at a time. It's going to potentially change, give you a cushion of comfort that you'll thank me for in the future. So that's my Bitcoin. So 1 o'clock, we're going to talk about this more on Political Bitcoin Hour. I'll try to create a space, a channel for Twitter Spaces in the Discord, Jesse, and put it there. Yes, I agree. Can you tag me on a tweet, please? Okay, you guys are all talking to each other. And the other thing is, Cheryl says the U.S. dollar is set to crash. Yes and no. Yes, I love this how Steven says it. Yes, no, and sort of. The U.S. dollar has always been crashing. It's continuing to crash. That's why housing prices in the U.S. haven't gone up. The price of cars haven't gone up. The currency has been devalued by 98% in the past 100 years, right? So it's always set to crash, like all fiat currencies. And when they switched to fiat in 1971, that was, I think, the beginning of I don't want to say beginning of the end, because my other point to that is, this is what, I can't remember who said this, what are they going to go into? What are you going to buy, I don't know, pesos from Mexico, or Canadian dollars, or rubles? Like, no, it's all, the U.S. is still the strongest economy in the world. The value will plummet, will continue to plummet, but where's it going to go? It might go into Bitcoin. It looks like the U.S. government realizes that they want to set into Bitcoin. Cynthia Loomis, the former treasurer of Wyoming and now a senator, said when she was treasurer, she kept looking for a strong asset to put Wyoming's treasury in, and she kept coming back to Bitcoin year after year. She couldn't find something that worked. Then she did a deep dive into Bitcoin and realized, oh my God, this solves all our problems, right? Yes, no, sort of sounds like a Trudeau answer. No clear answer. Julie. No, that's my saying that things are complex. It's not binary black and white. There's a lot of gray area, and that's with lots of things, not everything. But this is one of those areas. But don't say I'm like Trudeau. Come on. I've never put shoe polish on my face. Countries are moving away from the petrodollar. I think they're trying to. I don't know. I heard recently that the collective GDP of the BRICS nations is greater than that of the United States. That's worrisome. But what are they going to use? When they use the yuan? They're not using the yuan. Anyways, they're not, because they don't trust each other. None of these countries trust each other. So they need something that is trustless. Bitcoin, trustless meaning it doesn't require trust, because trust is built into the system because everything is verifiable. All right. You guys are awesome. You're all so wonderful. The Trump indictment, which I think we're going to talk about this inevitably in Political Bitcoin Hour. What do you think? Does this not guarantee his win in 2024? Like, what do you think? It's amazing. The political class's inability to understand human motivation, I think, guarantees that Trump will win. And I say the political class because people have heard other people say similar statements. Scott Adams famously says, the left doesn't understand human motivation. My experience, it's all the political class don't understand human motivation, because they're stuck within the frame of this political cult, and they can't see the world outside of it, right? It's a very isolating world for a lot of people, that they only get reinforced their ideas. It's this feedback loop, right? And I think that's why they do such stupid things, like these political targets on Trump, whether you like it or not, like him or not. I've even spoken to people who are like, yeah, I didn't really like Trump before, but I don't like people being targeted politically. This has got to stop. And the more they do that, the more people will turn and start to have that worldview. But the other thing that's interesting, from a marketing branding perspective, a question I put out to you, for those of you, let's say for those of you who are Trump supporters, if there are, right? Let's assume you're a Trump supporter. And if you're not, try to put yourself in the frame of a Trump supporter. Just replace Trump with a politician who you respect. It can be JFK Jr., it doesn't matter, anybody, right? Let's assume in a fictitious world that your political hero was being, in your mind, unfairly politically targeted, and there's a two-tier justice system, right? We saw what happened with Hunter Biden. The media ran cover, said it was a conspiracy theory, and then behind the scenes, the political class coordinated to get him just to sign away, get his life. Well, not sign away his life, just to sign a document to say I was a bad boy, and he gets spanked, while other people who did the exact same thing have been sitting in jail for 20 years, right? Or have been sentenced to jail for 20 years. So when you see the frame of that happening, don't you feel like you're being attacked? Think about that. Don't you feel like you're the one being attacked as well? You know, they keep calling him, again, whether you like him or not, he's populist, yeah, okay, populist just means representing the population. You got to look up the definition. It's hysterical that anybody who lives in a Western democracy takes the word populism and tries to smear it, which is what the communists have been trying to do for years, right? But don't you feel like you're now being targeted as well? That you're being hunted, that you're being oppressed, right? It doesn't feel that way, doesn't it? Julie says DeSantis will have his time, but he needs to grow a bit more to be relevant. I love DeSantis. He's a great governor. He got on my radar in 2014 when he was a congressman, and I can't believe he was talked into doing this. It was a massive political blunder. I have a lot of friends who are DeSantis supporters. I've been telling them forever, he has the potential to nuke his political career. Don't do this. But hopefully, eventually they'll all coalesce and come together, and I think everybody knows Trump will be the nominee. But I don't know. I don't. Me and Hicks were talking about some of the people around the DeSantis camp. That's really concerning. But that's another issue. We'll talk about that later time. Yeah, it's related to the people who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy, by the way, in case you're wondering. So we'll leave that as it is. And immunity is real in politics. Yeah, it's hard for him to read the small print. Jesse, not Julie. You're right. Sorry about that. And, oh no, that was you saying that. Okay. I thought I misspoke. Anyways, I'm going to end it there. It is an hour into it. I hope I upset some people because I'm good at that. But you always want to upset the wrong people. Having said that, I want you all to have an awesome day and a positive day, and be kind to people, be respectful to people. Don't do these lazy Gitch Gallop techniques that are designed just to smear people. Don't smear people. Don't make them look bad. Try not to do that. And your subconscious is watching you. And when your subconscious watches you being a good person, that's where you build confidence. And that's how your life becomes so much better every day, and you start to appreciate it more. So I love you all. We'll do a little bit more positivity next stream. I don't know if I'm going to be on the road tomorrow or not. There's some things going on right now. But next stream, I will try to move over to a little bit more positivity. And 1 p.m. today on Twitter, join the Political Bitcoin Hour. Should be lots of fun. And as Sonia always says, she says this every time, Sonia, I love when you're here.